so happy to have on one of my absolute heroines and best friends and colleagues, Marwa Osman, speaking to me from Lebanon. Let's hope the Syrian-Lebanon combined internet can handle an interview for half an hour, 45 minutes. Marwa, it's so lovely to be speaking to you again.
An absolute pleasure and always so happy to be with you. I miss you so much since the last we met, but listening to your voice and hearing what you have to say is enough for me right now. Thank you for having me.
No. Um, Marwa, you were recently in Tehran for an event that you can speak about to our listeners.
Mhm.
But you were there, I think you arrived in Tehran one day before the tragic helicopter accident that deprived the world of President Raisi, the foreign minister Amir Abdulhayan, and a number of other crew members, security forces, and dignitaries. Just tell us basically about the events, how they unfolded after you arrived in Tehran.
Well, first of all, I'd like to give my condolences again to the Iranian nation and to all the free peoples of the world, Vanessa, because truly we've all lost good leaders in this crash. And on top of whom is President Raisi, of course, but also on the diplomatic front, Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian, who really, in my view, was not only the Foreign Minister of the Islamic Republic of Iran, but also the Foreign Minister of the entire axis of resistance who supports Palestine in its current genocide that's facing at the hands of the Zionist entity by the weapons of the Americans and the British and Europeans. So it was a grave loss. It was a shocker, to be honest with you. I arrived in Tehran early Saturday morning, and the weather was lovely. The people are, as always, are lovely. We were preparing for the second international Sabah Media Festival, organized by the IRIB, which is the Iranian. Uh, uh, it's the Iranian Republic International Broadcast Agency. So it organizes. This is the second year it organizes this media festival to honor shows and whether there are radio shows, TV shows, social media platforms that work to basically be the voice of the voiceless, of the oppressed people, and who produce interesting stuff that usually leave a mark. And two of my shows were actually nominated. I was happy just to be there, to be honest with you, with all the really nice people who were invited, a lot of friends who I've not seen in years, so that was really nice. But the second day, yani the event was supposed to happen on Tuesday. I arrived on a Saturday, and between Saturday and Tuesday, there were several seminars that are directly linked to the media festival that we were taking part of in universities and in cinema halls and in theater halls, and discussing a lot of issues, but mainly Palestine and Gaza were the center of those issues. And we were on our way to the cinema hall in Tehran to discuss the future of the Palestinian, uh, if you will, the future of not the resistance, but the people, and how they deal with their resistance, especially after this war ends. So it was really interesting with a lot of good people. But on the way, it was, I remember correctly, it was like 5:15 p.m. Tehran time. That's like I think that's like 4:30 or 4:15. No, that's 4:15 in Beirut and Damascus.
Mm.
Iran is 1 hour ahead. So it was like 5:15 p.m. and we were obviously stuck in Tehran traffic as usual. And we were discussing how what we are going to say and who says what and what kind of topic each one of us will discuss. And we get news that there is a hard landing in the helicopter of the president. At that moment, I looked in the eye of one of my friends who I trust there, and we looked at one another, and we just we knew something bad has happened. And the entire time, while we were at the seminar, people were like, they were very attentive, but at the same time, everyone was looking at their phones to see if there's any breaking news.
Yeah.
And we finished at like 7:30, or like I think it was 7:45 p.m. when we were supposed to go back to the hotel. And one of my friends, my Iranian friends, whispered to me that there's bad news. And we knew at 7:45 that whatever the news is, it's bad news, meaning it's either everyone on board the plane is no longer alive, or if anyone of alive, they are seriously injured. So that we knew that at 7:45, but then nothing. And you saw how many uh, breaking news were coming, and half of those breaking news were later on denounced or taken back because there was some sort of a fuss, some sort of an unorganized chaos that was going on, especially in the Iranian media at the time. But I was following through with Press TV all the time because I was already there. I met all my colleagues, and we were just waiting to hear something official. Bless them, the newsroom at Press TV. They didn't want to share any kind of news until they have official uh, uh, news coming from the government about what happened, if they found the plane or not. We ended up going to another seminar and returning back to the hotel at 1 p.m. at 1 a.m. I'm sorry, in the morning. Uh, it was a bit far away. When we got back to the hotel, I couldn't sleep. I went to my room, but there was like the room connecting to mine. There was like just, I think there were two doors between my room and another room, and I could hear them like having their television, their TV out loud, waiting for a statement. I was too tired by then. I went to bed at like 5 in the morning. I woke up, checked my phone, nothing yet. Had my prayers, went back to bed. I was too tired, and it was 8:08 a.m. when I hear them increasing the level of the TV channel, and I hear the word "Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un." I literally jumped out of bed. It was so startling for me because to hear this ayah is alone is something that brings shock and fear to one's body. But what really shocked me was the moment this was announced on national TV. It was like someone clicked a button, Vanessa, and crowds. There were no crowds in the streets, but everyone who had their TVs on all around Tehran, they all screamed at once. It was so, I'm telling, I remember it now, and I have goosebumps remembering it. 8:08. I jumped out of bed listening to Inna Lillahi wa Inna Ilayhi Raji'un, to Allah we belong and to Him we shall return, and screams were coming from the streets. This is how much the people loved their president. I could, if I weren't there and someone told me, I swear I wouldn't believe it. But I was there and it happened, and it gave me goosebumps for several days to come. I couldn't believe what happened. And it was so sad. It was so heartbreaking. They had so much more to do. But again, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This is their fate. We have to accept that they are martyrs doing their job on duty, trying to help their community. They were actually opening up a very important dam between Azerbaijan, and actually two dams, not just one, between Azerbaijan and Iran. So I do understand how important and vital their mission was for the people of Iran uh, who are suffering suffocating sanctions, uh, which, by the way, the same sanctions that ended up having this plane crash, because even if it were just an accident, not having the right maintenance and having you blocked as a country, as a foreign state, from buying new technology for your head of state is an indirect cause of this accident. Uh, but condolences again to the Iranian people. And this is what we lived through. And it was, the following days were really very sad, but it was amazing to see how disciplined, how poised, really, the Iranian people were. Life continued regularly, nothing stopped, but everything stopped on the day of the funeral. I passed by the nearby by the place that the funeral processions were taking place, but I had to continue to the airport because on that same day I had to come back to Beirut. But before that specific day, life went on normally, but everyone was sad. Everyone was wearing black. Everyone was showing respect and mourning to their heads of state and the foreign minister and to all prominent people and dignified people on board of that plane. So but the Iranian people showed a lot of poise, a lot of discipline, a lot of self-respect, to be honest with you, and uh, patience in dealing with such a grave tragedy. And it was amazing for me because if it had happened in Lebanon, it would have been chaotic. It would have been, I mean, I had a call, my husband called me and he was like, uh, are you sure you want to go out like today? I was like, sure. Why wouldn't I? And he said, because Beirut doesn't look safe. So I'm assuming Tehran is. I was like, no, trust me. Beirut is always chaotic, but Tehran, no, everything's going well.
Yeah.
So obviously people here were very sad in Beirut and they were at the tip of their toes waiting to hear some good news, but sadly it was announced later. And I was told that people were really, really sad. A lot of people directly wore black and went over to the Iranian embassy to show respect and to show support as well. So basically, that's what happened when I was in Iran. But what was really, really amazing is that whoever we met after the martyrdom of President Raisi and his companions, whatever affiliation they were, whether they were conservative or liberals, or because we went out, we saw people, we went out to restaurants at night, and we went out to certain sites like touristic sites in Tehran. We had a lot of we had with us a group of a lot of Westerners and Arabs and whatnot. So we went out to see sightseeing, and the people there, whatever they were affiliated with, whatever they identified to be, whether conservatives or liberals or in between, they all were sad. They all had Quranic verses being played. They all had the black flag at the entrance of their restaurants, or because it is a nation that respects the fallen leaders, whether they did vote for that leader or not. And we actually saw a lot of vox pops and sound bites from the funeral later on, people from all walks of life, Iranians, showing respect and really, really mourning the loss of these leaders.
So the fireworks that the BBC reported that
not
were being
one
set off.
firework, not one.
Yeah.
And I was in the center of Tehran. What low life maggots to talk about this when it's such a tragedy.
Exactly.
I mean, how this is so disgusting. Them and the Telegraph. I did an entire piece. I did a video before I even came back to Beirut because I already did also an episode about them. But I couldn't wait. I had to do a video about it. I mean, how dare they? The man has not been even retrieved yet. The bodies were not back yet. And they were publishing pieces about how this is an opportunity to attack the regime in Iran. I mean, what kind of humans are they even humans, though?
Yeah, well, if you're talking about the Telegraph article, it was the one, I can't remember the name, but he was a former US ambassador and it was co-written, but they both work for an organization that was basically founded by Mossad.
Israel, yeah, definitely. That's what I covered in my show. I think it was aired yesterday, and exactly. And those two people are the last people who should be talking about anything related to freedom and democracy, by the way.
Exactly. But even today, I mean, I just flicked through some of the leading headlines on Iran, and I'm still seeing the same old diatribe coming out of Western media. For example, one of the headlines, Raisi's death could trigger civil war.
What? Where? Civil war where? In the US? Maybe.
I think it's one of the US. I'll send it to you. But I just came across it today. Well, exactly.
No, I mean civil war. Civil war where? In the US? If in the US, yeah, maybe, probably, especially since the Trump case and whatnot. What's happening right now? It's crazy in the US. So maybe Raisi's passing will break civil war in the US. But in Iran, oh my God, who writes these issues? It's like it's like a new episode of the Game of Thrones.
Exactly. No, I think it's just, any perceived weakness, this is their default position, to try and push some kind of lame narrative that has pretty much already been destroyed.
No, but the funniest one so far is that Imam Said Ali Khamenei was the one behind the plane crash because he doesn't want Raisi to be his successor and he wants his own grandchild to be his. I was like, what kind of a Bollywood series is that? And do they really think that the jurist, the leader of the jurist, which is the wali al-faqih, which means the highest level of leader in Shia Islam, is actually a monarch? Do they actually think that he will pass on his quote throne unquote to his grandson? First of all, it's not a throne. It's literally a chair that costs no more than $10. This is how this man lives. Second of all, it's if they don't understand what elections are, it's actually it's not a successor. He's elected into the position. People choose him. Very important people in the level of religious scholar Shia Islam choose that person. He doesn't appoint himself or appoint a successor. And it's ridiculous to even think about this because this is not Saudi Arabia. They don't kill one another for a throne. What would they gain by sitting on a $10 chair? The man has a burden that no one can actually handle, the kind of burden that the leader of the revolution has on his shoulders. It has to be a man who knows that he can be killed at any point because the Islamic Republic of Iran has enemies all across the world. He knows that he has the responsibility of keeping up with everything religious that has to do with millions of Shia Muslims who follow him. And at the same time, he has to tend and care to the revolution in Iran, to the continuous successes of the revolution. Do you think people would want that position? They would like really run after that position, but they're ignorant. Really, people need to get educated, Vanessa. This kind of ignorance is unacceptable at this day and age.
Well, also they're projecting. They're
Yeah,
projecting from their own culture, their own, absolute moral bankruptcy, because this is
yeah,
exactly what they do,
yeah.
right? So a lot of this all the time is projection of, as we've seen on steroids from the Zionist entity since October the 7th, but even since before. I mean, as became well known on social media, an accusation is a confession, and
Yeah.
since October the 7th, we've had endless examples of that. So I think people are becoming very aware of this, but I think Iran is still very much a mystery culturally to
Yeah.
a lot of people in the West, and as I would always recommend, go there. Go
Yeah.
and actually see how incredibly hospitable the people are, the culture, the intellectuals that are there, the
The art,
progressiveness,
the music, the
yeah,
museums, the
yeah,
people, the everything,
beauty
everything. You
of
get every
it.
time you go, you get astonished more
Yeah.
by learning new stuff and learning new issues. Like the way that you actually do when you go to new cultures and be attentive to listen and learn more about it. But when have you ever went to Western cultures and learned anything new except that individuality is the most important and me, I want to win, me against others, I'm selfish. This is basically what Western values are, and which is why we now see this kind of a full wave of a new movement, especially by the youth who see and for the first time, and I think Gaza helped them open their eyes, really see what kind of a society they're living in. And I think it's going to be from now on, whether Gaza ends or not, it's going to be very challenging for the Western establishments to keep up with what the new wave, the new movement, whether with the syndicates, with the students movement, or with the activism, is going to change the way that they think that they are ruling the public with.
Yeah, exactly. No, we talked the other day about, and I have to say that, many people jumped on social media with theories that it was Israel who had a
Yeah,
hand in the helicopter crash, even if it was Azerbaijan that carried out the
yeah,
instructions. There was a lot of theories circulating on Telegram, on X, and pretty much everywhere. But there have been, I think there's now two preliminary reports
yeah.
from the Iranian investigations or investigators that are saying that categorically that there was no sabotage.
Yeah.
But they haven't really gone into huge detail as to the causes. But you were telling me that you had some information that you
Yeah.
could share about what had actually happened.
Well, the information that I have are from trusted sources, and they shared with me a couple of issues that happened right before the plane crash and right after the plane crash. Right before the plane crash, there were 17 diplomatic faults that happened. 17 diplomatic mistakes that actually took place, because the major question is, okay, when the report says there was no sabotage, the first question that comes to mind: who decided that all of these people should be sitting together in one helicopter? That's a
Yeah.
very simple question to ask, and it's an important question to ask, and that's basically a big part of the investigation, and what led to a lot of responsibilities being held to the protocol team of the president himself, because they, sadly enough, the president asked for Minister Abdullahian to be with him, and that's information coming from trusted sources. That's not me saying it, okay? But that source told me that President Raisi requested that for Minister Abdullahian be on board the same plane with him, because he wanted to talk to him about a certain thing, to a point that the person who was sitting on that plane, or who had a place on that plane, had already one of his briefcases on board the helicopter, and he just left the helicopter and kept his suitcase on board, and Foreign Minister Abdullahian went on board instead of him. And that was the last time that man saw them. And I've told that he's really feeling down, because he thinks that he should have been on that plane instead of Foreign Minister Abdullahian. But anyways, this is just this is something, subhanallah, that happens because it has to happen. Yani. But people usually feel guilty when that happens. But anyways, there were 17 protocol mistakes. One of those mistakes is that they granted the president the request that he wants, which means that he shouldn't have been granted that request for protocol reasons, and other protocol issues that I don't really have any information about, but I know that it is 17. And the other issue is that there were no problem with the communication. The headquarters of, because there's always a headquarters listening to what's going on the conversation happening on a plane where the head of state would be on board, and coordinating with those planes and with the planes that are usually the security planes that fly with it. They coordinate weather issues, security issues, and whatnot. There were no weather alerts. All communication were perfect. There was no missing of a certain communication that happened. What happened is that they decided to go. The weather, there was like a lot of clouds, or the clouds were getting thick, so they decided to go below the clouds, fly for a certain period of time, and then come back up when the thickness of the clouds would be less. So what happens is all three planes went down, and within less than 2 minutes, supposedly all three planes should have gone up. Only two planes went up. And here was my second question to that source: is when the third plane did not come up, and it's the most important plane because the president is on board of it, why did the planes continue, and why didn't they go back? Because they were too close. They should have been, I mean, they were close to where the crash site was. Why did they decide to go back to base and not search for the helicopter of the president? My question was not answered. I think the person was not cleared to actually answer that question until now. But I think that we will know more about these issues when the full detailed report will come out, and I've been told that it will come out soon, probably within the upcoming 2 weeks, and everyone could read about it in details. But at the moment, there was no sabotage, there was no gunfire, there was no laser attack, there was no strike, there was no, because there were a lot of hypotheses going on, a lot of theories going on. And one of those theories was that there was some sort of a cyber attack. That was also off. That's not true. So most probably what happened is they went down into the clouds and the crash happened because either they didn't know, they didn't really know which area they were in, and I personally I doubt that, because usually they work with very clear data and very clear maps, or when they went down into the clouds, some kind of default happened with the helicopter, which ended up crashing. So that point is supposed to be mentioned in the full investigative detailed report, and we're just waiting for that. But up until now, this is the information that I have, and that a lot of people are being investigated because they broke protocol, because they broke that much amount of protocol. Sadly, the head of the security of the of President Raisi passed away with him on board of that plane. So that's also a lot of information that we can't have because the man passed away. But at least we know what's happening in the other planes, and what kind of a last minute conversations were happening when the protocols were broken. And at the same time, I had a lot of questions concerning why did they use helicopters and not use the president's plane, because according to many reports, there was an airport that is like 30 kilometers away from the site of the dam, which could take them to Tabriz. There's a small airport outside of Tabriz, which means that they could have actually gone to Tabriz by plane, take the people who were supposed to go with them, because Tabriz is right on the border, and they I think they have to be there for the ceremony, and then just go again and land in Azerbaijan, 30 or 35 kilometers away from the dam. And then I asked that, and they said that they do want to have to make a vehicle trip, a trip by car. By helicopter, it would have been much easier, less time, and the president had a lot of meetings. And by the way, the president was supposed to be our keynote speaker in the Subah Media International Festival, and that was a surprise for us. That was one of the surprises that the festival directors were holding on to. But when the accident happened, they told us, and it was very, very tragic. But but he already had a lot of meetings, and Mr. Amir Abdullahian was supposed to go back to Tehran and then take a plane and go to Beirut, because they were in the midst of direct negotiations between with the Americans in Oman, and they were involved in the negotiations between what the Israelis are portraying to the Americans. The Americans were telling the Iranians in Oman, especially what has to do with the northern front, with the northern occupied Palestinian territories with Lebanon. They were trying to find some sort of a deal to make Hezbollah stop bombing Israel, and Israel stop bombing Lebanon, because Hezbollah would say, no, we'll stop when you stop on Gaza. That's how our promise, and that's our vow. We will not stop while you are committing massacres and killing people in Gaza. So he was heavily involved in those talks, and I know for a fact that he was coming to Beirut, and he ended up rising as a martyr, as he should. And I truly believe that they both had what they requested, because spiritually, when you get, if you are really attached to what you believe in, the best thing for you as a human is to pass away while doing your duty, not to grow old and die of disease, or to die of illness or whatever, but to die while you are full of energy doing what you're supposed to do. And I think that's what makes them really great leaders and really prominent figures in our lifetime.
One question that I was asked very often during the funeral ceremonies, which were extraordinary. I mean, the millions that poured on the streets, not only of Tehran, but all through Iran. I mean, in villages, in towns, in cities. It was really extraordinary. I mean, I would love to see which Western leader would command such such an outpouring were they to pass away in similar circumstances?
You know
None.
what? It
None.
was
I
it
can
was
answer
recorded
that.
as the biggest funeral in modern history. There's
Mm,
no recorded funeral that has been so big, by the way, that it's 25 million humans took part in it all across Iran.
yeah.
There's no other funeral in modern history or in recorded history that has ever happened. The biggest so far was the funeral of Qasim Soleimani, where
Mm.
7 million Iranians took part in the ceremony and in the funeral and the ceremony after that. But with the President Raisi and his companions, 25 million. That's like more than the population of many of the countries, including mine. So that's amazing.
I think also that's I just wonder what you think also, but I think it's also a reflection of the time that we're living in right now. And
Yeah,
as you said, you know, the explosion in Palestine, the
yeah.
genocide, the massacres, the Iranian
And
retaliation
mind you,
against
it
Israel.
came 1 month and 10 days after the Iranian retaliation against
Yeah,
Zionist Israel, and Iranians were feeling like they did the world a big favor.
mm, exactly. So, you know, the
And then
timing was
the
extraordinary.
tragedy happened. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, is there going to be any difference in Iranian policy towards Palestine,
No.
towards the
Oh, never.
resistance? Right.
Never. If you look at who's the actual candidates for the upcoming presidential elections in June, or in July, it's going to be in July. Um, if you look at the candidates, I mean, they're going to be very sorry that they made fun of the passing of President Raisi, because the upcoming president will not be as fun.
Mm,
I mean, if they don't know about him, if they don't really recognize what he's capable of, what his capabilities are, what his skills are, what he has done so far, the positions that he has taken so far, and the way that he thinks. I think that whoever did not vote for President Raisi was voted in as head of state, as president, with 17 million votes.
mm.
I think that if you're an Iranian and you took part in that funeral, I'm 100% sure you're going to vote for that man, which means he might gain votes, like he might gain historic number of votes, something that Iran has never seen. He's going to be the ninth president of the Islamic Republic, and I think that man, Saeed Jalili, will be the most voted for president in the history of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
And by what you're saying, he'll be even more hardline as regards supporting the resistance and being
I like the word
anti-imperialist.
I like the word conservative pro resistance, because hardliner is basically a Western
Right. Yeah.
terminology to against whoever they think is doesn't fit with their agenda. But I think that he will be more uh, uh, adamant on
Mm,
making sure that the resistance factions all across of West Asia will get what they need. And not only in West Asia. If you remember that since President Raisi took office in 2021 up to until now, there's been a lot of development in the relationship between Latin America and the Islamic Republic of Iran. Cuba, Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, uh, all of these countries, and more, Ecuador, and there's one more, I keep forgetting it. Anyways, a lot of Latin American countries, a country as small as Ecuador, the Islamic Republic of Iran sent people there to build economic ties with. That's very important. And we're talking about countries that are sanctioned by the United States of America. So it's not only the axis of resistance, because it is a perfect embodiment of the goals of the Islamic Revolution, is to stand with the oppressed against the oppressor, wherever they are, whoever they are affiliated with. And I think the letter of Imam Ali Khamenei 2 days ago to the young students of the United States of America is an embodiment of the revolution itself, whether you accept that letter or not, whether you are with that letter or not, because I'm not talking about that. I have an opinion about it. I don't want to discuss my opinion about it because I think it's going to offend a lot of people. But despite what I think, I think that this letter is an embodiment of what the Islamic Revolution is about, which is supporting the oppressed. And at the moment, and ever since the encampment in across universities in the West, mainly in the United States of America and the UK, the students have been oppressed. They've been beaten, they've been tortured, they've been incarcerated. And I think it's the least that can be done is to support these youth, whether they accept Iran or not, whether they accept the Islamic Republic or not. That's not the issue. The issue is that they are oppressed and we need to stand with them. And I think by doing so, you are showing those people, those youngsters, those movements that Iran is not the enemy. Look towards your inside your house to see who your enemy is, who's suppressing you, who's not allowing you to even express your thoughts and your opinions. And then look through all what you have learned, what that establishment has educated you, and doubt it. Have critical thinking, think for yourself and ask questions, and go search for the answers on your own. And I think this is what he meant, that it's a new chapter in history. And I think that even though the Western public were very cynical and they criticized the letter a lot, saying a lot of issues from look, the regime that kills its own students, to look, the regime that oppresses women, to look. And I've never in my lifetime, whenever I visit Iran, seen anyone being oppressed or being beaten in the streets. Wallah al-Azim, I swear to you, one of my friends was flabbergasted. We were walking down the most famous bazaars in the middle of Tehran, and it was like 10% hijabi women, and
Yeah.
the rest were non-hijabis. They weren't even putting a hijab on their head. That if that doesn't speak volume of how the Islamic Republic of Iran has changed ever since the revolution up until now, because acceptance is a vital and important factor of keeping a revolution alive. Acceptance and development. And this doesn't mean that asking the public to wear hijab is a wrong thing. Yeah, I know. Look, if you are, I was saying that the issue is not with the actual law of demanding hijab or not. It's about dialogue. It's about enhancement. It's about advancement. It is about listening to what people need. And you cannot listen if there's no dialogue. If you want to pick a fight, the other side will fight you. But this is not what we saw in Iran. We saw a lot of progressive people, a lot of people accepting other people. Yes, it is a conservative society. Hello, it's their culture. Who am I or who is anyone to demand them to change? It's not for us. It's their culture. They can say whatever they want and change whenever they want. And if they want to change to begin with, it's up to them. It's not up to me or anyone else to tell them that. But what we saw is absolutely against what all Western mainstream media says. And if you don't believe me, just go on YouTube, just type Opal Mall, OPAL, Opal Mall in Tehran, and just watch the mall, watch the people in the mall, and look at everyday life in Tehran, how it is, and stop criticizing something that you don't understand, and stop believing. I mean, come on. If you don't believe your own mainstream media when it speaks about Gaza, why should you believe it when it speaks about anything else?
Or when it speaks about Syria for 14 years. And,
Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Bahrain, Taiwan, all of these issues.
Exactly. No, I mean, the 2 weeks that I spent in Iran, actually just after, the so-called death of Mahsa Amini, which actually she died in hospital. But the same for me, I was walking through the same mall, the same bazaars, the same streets. And I would also say that even the majority of people that I interviewed were not wearing hijab. And not only in Tehran, in Isfahan, in all of the areas
across most of the provinces,
Iran
because
that I went to.
There's a few provinces that have more conservative look at the Islamic garment, and that's found everywhere. I mean, if you are in Lebanon and you go to the towns and the villages, you'll see that people are more conserved, and that has to do with the culture. The same thing in Syria. It's different when it's in the capital or in the cities. So, and this is our culture. Why should we change it, or why should we think about it negatively only to please the West?
Exactly. And, you know, if women's rights have been weaponized as far back as Afghanistan. And where are women's rights right now? They're
Yeah.
non-existent, you know. So,
Yeah, because it's Gaza.
uh,
Maybe those women are not seen by other feminist movements. That's such a shame. If I ever look right now, they're in hibernation, but the war will end, and there will be a time when they will come out of hibernation and try to speak. I will be there to shut each and every one of them.
exactly. I guess just my last question, Marwa, you know, we're speaking about the resistance axis. The genocide in Gaza continues on a minute by minute basis,
Yeah,
24/7.
yeah.
Um, is there going to be, you know, a hiatus in Iran's, let's say, positive reactions for the resistance axis? I mean, we've seen today also the escalation from Yemen of targeting, which was it, the aircraft carrier Eisenhower,
Eisenhower, yeah.
after the US UK bombing and
Yeah, they killed
massacring of
58 Yemeni
civilians.
civilians. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
58 civilians were killed because the United States of America doesn't like it when people put sanctions on its baby Israel.
exactly. So, you know, leading up to the election in Iran, where do you see the resistance axis going, let's say for the next 2 months, in preventing further slaughter in Gaza, or increasing the level of
Well,
resistance
I'll tell you
reaction?
something. After Eid al-Fitr, after Ramadan, we had the Eid, we had the holidays. After the holidays, Zionist Israel kept postponing its Rafah operation. They postponed for like 3.5 weeks, and then they began the operation. And ever since the operation began, the level of escalation on the border between Lebanon and Palestine has severely, dramatically changed. I mean, the level of destruction on both sides. I'm not saying only in Lebanon, also in the settlements, in the illegal colonial settlements. Both sides have been very, very vicious with one another. All the operations that the resistance has been doing since October 8th, by completely blinding, completely taking away all eyes and all vision of the Israeli entity from all those posts that they attacked. You know, a lot of people were being cynical and making fun that, oh, look, Hezbollah is bombing a tower. You idiot, that tower can see as far as Gibraltar. But since you're an idiot, let us explain it to you. They took those out because if you have been following, especially in the last 2 weeks, the level and the capabilities of Hezbollah on the border, the last video that we watched, I think it was 2 days ago, it was from resistance fighters right at the wall, right at the wall that Zionist Israel erected between Lebanon and Palestine. Had they not been doing this strategy for the past 7 months, they wouldn't be able to go so close, do their operation, and come back safely. So,
Mm.
added to that, they've been using new weaponry. We saw a lot of Almas being used, a new rocket. We saw a lot of Burkan more being used. And ever since Israel started escalating its use of white phosphorus in South Lebanon, we've seen that Hezbollah has been retaliating with rockets that actually cause a lot of fire in the occupied settlements. So it's one-on-one right now. It's you hit us that way, we hit you this way. Just before I went on with you, I think we went on together at 6. At 5 p.m., there was news that Israel killed two medical aid workers in South Lebanon in Naqoura. They literally bombed their ambulance and killed them. And that's not new because the day before yesterday, Israel also bombed Salah Ghandour Hospital in South Lebanon. They don't care anymore. They never cared, but now they don't care anymore after all the genocide and the massacres they committed in Gaza. So, but Hezbollah is retaliating equally. So I predict that the upcoming attack will definitely be on a place that really hurts the Zionist entity. Uh, Probably not Meron, but way deeper, and we'll wait and see what happens till then. But on our front in Lebanon, things have been escalating. What we've seen in Yemen, I think they downed an MQ Reaper 2 days ago. That was
Yes.
like the third this month, the third one in May. I mean, those people are amazing, trust me. But again, with the escalation, I mean, the Americans said, oh no, we did not lose any MQ Reapers. But the last time I checked, no one can buy a $32 million plane and just fly it for fun. I mean, how much of an idiot response was that? But they committed a massacre, killing 58 civilians by striking areas in Yemen. And I think Yemenis did look. What I love about Yemenis is they don't wait. They retaliate before even the sun sets. And I've been told that the Eisenhower hit was a bullseye hit. And we'll wait to see reports about US personnel who fell in friendly fire in like 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Exactly. Do you think there's, I mean, I saw a report on one fairly reliable Telegram channel a couple of days ago that there was a build-up of Zionist forces heading towards the northern border, or their
That
northern
buildup has been
border.
since November 2023. And it
Right.
hasn't built up yet. I have no idea why. But look, putting all jokes aside, I think June is going to be a very decisive month. And I say that because after that, Joe Biden doesn't have a lot of time before the elections, and he cannot take any more mistakes from the Zionist entity that directly affects his numbers in the US. Added to that, now the trouble that he's in because of what they're doing to Trump as well. Not that I care about Trump, but I like watching them fight. So with that also, that's going to be a major mistake. I don't know if you heard that the website that Trump has opened for fundraising has crashed because of the number of people who tried to basically help out and pay him out of his cases or whatever is happening to him.
Bail him
But it
out.
crashed. That tells you a lot. That tells you that that this can, I'm not even kidding, this can lead to clashes in certain communities in the United States of America. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm not saying that I would not like to watch that happen, because it's about time they pay
Yeah,
for all the horrific things that they've done all across the world. But at the end of the day, we don't like to see any kind of civilian casualties or people getting hurt anywhere in the world. But with what you're saying, I think that June is going to be a very, very decisive month for the Zionist entities, for Hezbollah, for America. If they don't end the genocide soon, I think things will turn into an ugly corner. And I think that in the event that Zionist Israel decides to do something ridiculously stupid in Beirut, you're going to be seeing Tel Aviv on fire. And I'm not just saying that. Trust me.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I think it would be an incredibly foolish move. But at the same time, we're dealing with, we're not dealing with rational
With sane
thinking.
people. No, they're not rational. They're not. Yeah.
So I think expect everything, prepare for everything.
Yeah, and I think Syria is going to have a big. Syria already has a great role in this, but I think Syria is going to have a major role if things escalate with Lebanon. The Golan will be liberated, baby. Just wait and see. It's not that we like war, but we're not just going to stand aside and wait for you to come and kill us. No one likes war, but no one likes oppression either. No one likes to watch genocide happen on live TV and not do nothing. We're not Jordan. We're not Egypt.
Exactly. Thank you for mentioning them.
Yeah.
God.
Pleasure.
Yeah, that's another whole conversation, another time,
Yeah.
I think. Marwa, thank you so much for giving up your time as always, and your
My
incredible insights. Where can people follow you, and what are you working on right now?
Well, so far I have 2 shows. By the way, my show won at the Sobah International Festival. One of my shows actually won an award, and it was
I
like a
saw that.
surreal,
Fantastic.
moment for
Congratulations.
me. I was actually, I didn't know that it was. I didn't know it's going to happen. I was busy with one of my friends who was a reporter from Gaza, and then they just ushered my name, and I was like, "Who are you talking to? Me? no, you're talking to. So it was a weird moment. But yeah, I have the Mideast stream on Press TV, and I have also Expose on Press TV, which is a magazine show that exposes Western mainstream media, especially focusing on Palestine since the start of the genocide. And also, I usually publish one research paper per year as an assistant professor. But for the time being, I'm on Twitter and on Telegram until further notice, because there's been a campaign on Lebanese accounts for 3 days now. They shut down, for example, a prominent journalist like Haj Ali Shaib, who's the correspondent of the Al Manar TV in South Lebanon. He was with us, by the way, in Iran when to attend the festival, and it was great to meet that man. He's such an idol. So they took his account down. He has more than 300,000 followers for no reason. He's a journalist. Is literally reporting from a front line, and X took down his account. So I'm now counting the hours. I don't know if my account will be next, but for the time being, on X and on Telegram.
Okay. Thank you again, Marwa.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me and allowing me to be on your show, Habibi.
My thoughts are always with you, and I hope that I'll get to see you again in person
soon.
very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye.